Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the Anfield Index Podcast. I have no idea what episode it is, but I'm sure Lisa Marie will tell me soon. And my name is Trev Downey. I am your host for this particular episode, as for all episodes of this show. I'm joined this week by two of my three regulars, Lisa Marie Hanahan and Karl Coppack. We're all, I would imagine, to various degrees sweltering. Lisa Marie seems to have been complaining about the heat for at least 2 months now, as far as I can see. And young Coppack, being in a similar neck of the woods to myself, is experiencing some hot days, which the media seem to be very, very anxious to tell us is very scary. And I just, I'm finding it all very stressful, the angles that are being approached here. But let's get round to our two contributors and see how they're fixed. So Lisa Marie, I know you were away last week and myself and Cam started talking about holidays on the back of the fact that you were off on yours. So we were discussing our favorite holidays and stuff like that, but you have been to the magical place that is Disneyland of late. Now, how does that go for a lady in her mid-30s? How's that experience?
Well, first of all, happy to be here on episode 331 of the Anfield Index Podcast. It's not the same. I never went to Disney World. By the way, I was at Disney World. Disney World is in Florida. Disneyland is in California. So two totally different experiences. I have never been to Disneyland, but this was my third trip to Disney World. And I never went as a child. I didn't go until I was an adult with children of my own. So, but I really don't recommend it the first week of July in Florida. It's hot. It was hot. The only saving grace is we were having quite the heat wave here back in Tennessee, and there were a couple of days where it was hotter at home than it was in Florida. I mean, by a couple degree difference, but still took a little solace in that. So, but the reason we went, I think I mentioned, was my daughter had, and some of her compadres at her dance studio had the opportunity to dance in one of the parades down Main Street for the 50th, they're celebrating the 50th anniversary of Disney World this year. So she had an opportunity to do that. None of them passed out from heat stroke, which I think was a win in and of itself. Yeah,
result.
Yes, because it was. I mean, it was 6 p.m. when they did it, but it was still very warm. But there's 4 different parks that you can go between, and so we hit all 4 in the 5 days we were there. And so I think we kind of made the most of our short time. And in a way, it was nice to just have the one kid, only because it was just nice to have that kind of one-on-one experience. For those of us who have more than one child, sometimes especially when you've got them all together and they've all got different interests. So the whole trip can be a negotiation that, okay, we'll do this, but then your sister wants to do that, your brother wants to do this. So it was kind of nice to just have her. And Mr. H and I had some opportunities to kind of go off and do our own thing a little bit, which was also nice. So.
Yeah, lazily enough, I only have one child. And so when I went to Disney World, the couple of times I've been, and it was Disney World, the place you've been, it was very similar experience. And actually, my abiding memory was being treated like something of a herd of some sort of bovine creatures, because we were queuing. Even with the prepaid tickets, you're still queuing for a while.
Oh
And
yeah.
in the queues, there was actually lads going around actively spraying us with a fine mist of water, because that's how hot it was, and that's
Oh yeah.
that's 20 years ago. So, forgive me if I'm a little bit cynical about the "oh my God, it's hot" headlines that we're having at the moment. But that's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it, and no doubt that'll come back around. I have lots of questions about Epcot that I want to get to. Young Coppack, have you ever been to the magical place that is Disney World?
I'm not 6 years old, Trev. Sorry, so no.
Well, I won't take umbrage on behalf of myself and Lisa Marie, and we'll casually move on to.
I also don't have children, as is patently obvious. Otherwise, they'd be into Ray Kennedy and Superstars. And that reference
Now
is totally,
you do have
totally
the whole
lost on
Star
Lisa Marie.
Wars experience now when you go to Hollywood Studios, which is
Yeah, but it's new. Is it new Star Wars though? It's not Empire Strikes Back, the best film of the three,
yes
and I'm
and
going back down on
no.
that.
They do a little bit of all of it, but yeah.
Also, can we just? I hate to pull the wisdom card, but I don't have many of them, so I'm going to. If you think your kid would be into Ray Kennedy and Superstars, you're totally fucking mistaken, pal. I tried the indoctrination. I really tried. It didn't take. Instead, my kid was into fucking show tunes. So there you go.
There's a bit of that in this very house, actually. So
yeah. So I mean, this is a house in which I had people going around like talk rapping Hamilton and its ilk, with headphones on, and me just wincing away, and occasionally it will come on the speaker. I'm going, oh dear God, make it stop. So I'm afraid, it doesn't always work like that. However, you were involved in quite the your own sort of adventure in recent weeks since we've spoken to you last, at least on the show. Would you care to outline for the folks what it was you were doing, probably quite unadvisedly?
well, you know how sort of things like Indiana Jones films and things like that, where occasionally they have to jump out and abseil down the large building, and they just get on with it. Picture an overweight man gripping brickwork for all he's worth, on the side of a building which teaches a doctrine I don't believe in, and whose God I probably angered by being the other side of the city when it comes to that particular religion, and praying to him that this is over soon, that the rope won't snap. Basically, I abseiled off the Anglican Cathedral, the front porch at least, of the Anglican Cathedral in Liverpool last Saturday, and I love the bit where it finished. Because I was brave all the way until they say, okay, so basically you're standing a little bit inside the building itself, and there's like a hole in the wall type thing, and then you climb a ladder. Really wanted to climb a ladder to go to be slightly higher than I already was at that point.
Of course.
And then they turn you to face the building and ask you to walk backwards till your ankles are over the edge, and then they ask you to lean back. But it's okay, because this rope is protecting you, and you're perfectly safe and nothing can go wrong. I disagreed with them on that quite fervently. So you end up actually just walking down the brickwork a bit, and then you're in charge of the actual rope itself, but they're in charge of it too, in case, you go down a bit too quick. And apparently I went down quite quickly because I saw it as transport rather than a chance to look over my beautiful city.
Yeah.
Because I could already see that through fear, through the gap, when I was waiting for 10 minutes for them to strap me up to the bloody thing. So it's brilliant, but it is absolutely petrifying. I think I could do it again now. No, I'd still be scared. I'd still be scared of doing it. But
I was gonna say, I think that would be the thing for me, is having the time to think about it. If I could just do it, then it wouldn't be.
I was fine right until, because it's right opposite my school. So I looked at that cathedral every day for 5 years while I was at school, and always thought that's quite high, isn't it? But it's only sort of like half of it you do. You do the front bit, and not the massive tower itself. You do the bit on the west porch. And
can you imagine, Karl, if some sort of time loop were capable of being opened, more of which anon. I'm hoping there's going to be some time theory later on. But if you could have presented your school-going self with a picture of your, early middle-aged self tied to a rope coming down that fucking building, I think you probably would have said, come on. I mean, that seems a bit of a stretch. So, I mean, it must have been quite a surreal experience from that point of view, or was it completely subsumed in the anxiety of what am I doing here?
Bit of both, to be honest. It was. I've got to say, actually, once you're on the rope itself and you know how it works, it's fine. It really is. That bit's nice and easy, and I enjoyed the walking down the building bit because I felt I was gripping onto something, although admittedly nominally. If I could see myself, I would have said, why are we bothering with a midlife crisis? I thought we were better than that.
yeah.
I mean, is it ponytail and Lamborghini next? What's going on?
Exactly. Why hasn't older Karl got himself a little roadster and a much younger girlfriend or something, like every other cliche? Why is older Karl doing this to us? Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one. I don't know how you're fixed. I think when we were talking about this early on, am I right or wrong, Lisa Marie, saying that you were saying you're quite okay with heights usually?
I am, yes.
Yeah. So would it be fair to say we've all done various roller coasters and stuff like that? And I'm going to go out on a limb and imagine that that's where you're getting your "I'm okay with heights" thing, or is it just that you were once looked out from the attic and thought you were okay? I don't know where this heights is. So,
well, no, I mean, yes, the roller coasters and stuff, but I've gone up in the St. Louis Arch. I've been in the Grand Canyon, where you look down, and all the way to the top of the the new Freedom Tower in New York City. So yeah, I mean, I've been up fairly high. Now I've never tried to rappel off of anything, but
yeah. There's something quite surreal though about the viewing deck in the Freedom Tower where you just it doesn't seem right. It's like you're watching a movie, so you can't. It's hard to be afraid. I think somehow much smaller distances of height are actually far freakier. And I used to be very good. I look at my old man. He kind of runs around on top of roofs as if they're just like carpet. And I think I inherited a little bit of it, but some stage somewhere, and I remember the specific moment, it did change a little bit for me. I was actually on a school tour, taking a load of kids to a match, and then we went to Thorpe Park or something. And there's one of those rides that brings you right up to a really elevated height, and then tips you slightly over the edge so you're facing down, and it keeps you waiting there for a while so you can contemplate the stupidity of your actions. And in that period of time, I was thinking, what a ridiculous way to die. Why am I doing this? So since then, I have found myself a little bit more wary of heights than I had been. I don't know whether it's just, it's just a little bit of a mortality rush or whatever. Karl, have you ever done that one? Do you know the one? Have you been to Thorpe at any stage, that fun fair?
Again, I'm not 6 years old. I must refer you to my previous answer.
Oh my God.
No. Again,
come on, Karl.
I was going to say I'm 53, yeah, but you can dive off the building just because you're worried about getting old and past it. No, do you know what? I went on a roller coaster in Rhyl in North Wales when I was about 17. I'll admit this, and she knows it anyway, but to impress a girl. Come the end of that, I was the least impressive looking man it's possible to picture. I see myself as a very white, sweaty mess.
Yeah.
Melting slowly into the floor.
I hate to tell you, but I imagine at several points during it, you're even less impressive because nobody wants to see themselves whilst on a roller coaster. Those pictures are not good. I mean, I know we've all seen the freeze frames that they take, where your chin has recessed into the back of your neck somewhere.
And also have a very shaky voice saying, "Want to go for a drink sometime?"
Yeah. Well, that's just waiting for the two lads to descend from wherever they've hidden, really. Let's be honest.
Like the Smiths.
I really enjoyed this evening. Oh man.
hoping the hot vomit doesn't spray through my fingers once more. And there's the image. And probably the name of the show as well. Hot Vomit.
Yeah, Hot Vomit's a hell of a name. So
Karl and Marie appear in Hot Vomit.
Wow. Yeah. So I think at this around about this stage of proceedings, we should try and pretend as if we're going to do a football conversation, and then indubitably we will overdo it. When I mentioned to you the topics I wanted to cover, I said maybe the tour, the various injuries news that we've gotten, and some of the market moves made by some of the big clubs. Chelsea, Barca, City are all doing bits and pieces, and very big bits and pieces, in fact. Now, that the rug got pulled from under that by young Coppack, who said he hasn't been paying attention to anything this week, and it sounds like Lisa Marie might be expiring on me on the far end of the line. So I don't know if this ends up being a solo show, folks. You'll forgive me, but I do want to talk a little bit about this tour, not because I'm interested in the matches, because I had the opportunity to watch both and didn't. So let's get that clear first. Lisa Marie, have you seen either of the games?
Tuesdays I had on in the background, so I listened to it, sort of, kind of, and really didn't see it. Today I probably saw the very beginning, probably about the first 10, 15 minutes. Then I had to turn it off for a meeting, and then I caught most of the second half. So yeah, so a little bit. And again, I wasn't like watching today, like glued to the screen. I was half listening and glancing up every now and again. I did see what Karl just put in the chat, Jordan Henderson's goal. I did see that. It was a very nice assist from my fourth child, Harvey Elliott.
I was going to say, yeah. This was this was a link up between Harvey and the captain to put us ahead. That was after only 12 minutes. Now, did you get to see any of Mr. Núñez?
Not really see. Again, it's both matches when he was on. Well, and again, the match on Tuesday, I really didn't watch at all. It was more I listened, and the bits when he was on today, I really didn't see very closely. So I really can't form a fair opinion, other than to say that, I mean, come on, people, it's preseason. Let's not overreact.
Yeah, I mean, it's 100% that and so much more. I mean, Karl, I know that I said this to Cam last week when we did just the show with just the two of us, that I seem to recall over each of the last 3 summers since we've been doing this show together, we've had this chat. First time around it was me, you, and Pooley, then me, you, and Cam. Actually, this might be our 4th summer. And each time, I think we've all expressed varying degrees of not being arsed about preseason matches in the least. I mean, I could not give a damn about them at all. They're literally no indicator of what's to come. I used to think, you get a run and momentum going into the season and all that, but it literally has no bearing. One of the worst preseasons we've had was followed by one of the best seasons we've had. This type of thing.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Now, I will say the only 2 times I've been able to see Liverpool play has been on their preseason tours over here in the US.
Yeah, you see, this is the thing. This is the thing, Lisa Marie. This is where I was kind of driving it, because I was going to say, myself and Karl, it's okay for us and we can be kind of, yeah, who cares about that type of thing. But at the same time, there are people who live here in Ireland who might as well be living in Tennessee, or might as well be living in Kuala Lumpur or any other place around the world, who just cannot, for various reasons, financial and otherwise, get across to a game. So when Liverpool came over to play a game 3, 4, 5 seasons ago here pre-season, that was a real treat for people. Same when they went to the States, and I know, Lisa Marie, you made it your business to attend them. And so they are a big deal from that perspective. And so this is the topic I wanted to get at, because I think we have 2 different kind of cultural reference points here. And maybe 2 different ways of looking at it, because I know, I'll go to you first, Karl. I know it kind of grates with you, as I'm sure it does with Lisa Maria, and I know it does with myself, to think about our club as anything other than that. to think about it, for example, as a franchise or business or brand or any of those horrible words. And yet we do have to be realistic, and we do have to say that it's really valuable and vital that the club makes those connections with populations and fan bases across the world, because that is what grows the economic power, which means that we can go and get the players that we want to get. Would you agree with that, or do you think it's a load of palaver?
Pre-season friendlies aren't for me, and I'm in an incredibly privileged position where I get to see Liverpool play a hell of a lot of time. I'm not really interested in training sessions with another team being involved. And I think people can be a bit sniffy about like going, Thailand, Singapore, and things like that, and saying, "Oh, why don't they come to us?" But and there is a reason for that, and there's also some criticism, because it does seem to be a bit odd that if you're a 7-year-old kid and you want to meet Jordan Henderson, then you have to be abroad in July to do it, because that's not happening in this country. But I mean, you're probably thinking back to the Carlsberg Cup, aren't you, Trev? Are you at those games?
Yeah,
under Julio. I believe we're still the holders of the Carlsberg Cup. We certainly are the holders of the Pirelli Cup from 1998, where we beat Inter Milan with a Steve Harkness goal, of all things.
And the most recent one was the year we had just done really well under Rodgers, and we came over and played a game against Shamrock Rovers. So that was 2014, something like that. And that's the most recent time that the club was over here doing anything, doing bits and pieces. And these are, like I say, for fans, and Lisa Marie can speak to this in a second, it is a really rare chance, like you said yourself, for people to make that connection, to imprint on the team in a way that will last a freaking lifetime for some people. And I don't think you can downplay that at all, Karl.
Not at all. No, and it's important. And there's a lot of things about, the global brand, etc. And, are they missing out on things back home? The club are a lot better now than they used to be on that sort of thing. And I also know for a fact that Liverpool actually do a great deal in the community that they can't talk about because it looks like grandstanding. And I've got that from someone quite high up in the club. So we actually do loads of, what was Melwood, etc. So, there's a lot more of that going on. I can't get too sniffy about it, because firstly, I don't care. I really, really, really don't care about whether, what the club are doing in the Middle East, and I don't care about the results of the game. In fact, literally, I've only just discovered now that we played today. I had no idea that was going on. And if people are happy, then people are happy, and that's fine with me. I get to see them at the Charity Shield, and so I can't be sniffy about that sort of thing at all. And I know just how privileged I am to be in that position.
The contrasting point of view then, Lisa Marie, from someone who isn't in the privileged position of seeing them on a weekly basis or a monthly basis at least, I'm in that situation myself. I could change it if I was able to rejig a few things around family-wise, but then I wouldn't have a family. So currently that's not really an option for me, but it used to be, and I understand the perspective that Karl has. It's so good to be able to do it, but when you can't do it, it's a hell of a thing to be able to actually see the players. And on those occasions as well, Lisa Marie, unless I'm mistaken, there seems to be a sort of relaxed attitude, and the players seem to come and do meet and greets, or at least go down to the fans so you can probably get a picture. All those kind of things that make a massive difference to a fan in the early days of their fandom.
Yeah, now I will say that the two times we attended preseason matches, all we did really was go to the match. We didn't, we weren't there to see the open training sessions, or because we had to travel, quite a distance to do so. Summer of 2018, we were up it was Ann Arbor, Michigan, at the University of Michigan. It just happened I had enough flight credits to be able to fly the whole family up there. And I had hotel points for a free stay, and so it was, other than the tickets and to feed us, it was, a relatively inexpensive trip. And then the following year, summer of 2019, it was University of Notre Dame, which is South Bend, Indiana, and that's a good 7 hours away. And Mr. H and I drove up for that, and got there basically. We drove up the night before. Anyway, so yeah, so we didn't do any of the other, but I do know there is a lot of that. And I mean, the sheer number of people is now, when we were in Michigan, they were playing Man United. So, you know, 2 huge draws, and there were over 100,000 people in attendance at that stadium. So it was, yeah, it was fun. And there is kind of a relaxed atmosphere, and everybody was very friendly, and you know, it was just fun. It was fun. You know, that's my favorite word, #fun.
Same.
Yeah.
So yeah, they but you know, I just remember, you know, and of course when we went the first time, that was when I was really starting to get in and starting recognizing and knowing the players and stuff. And I remember thinking, come on, bring on the people I want to see.
Yeah, of course.
And then very much that way the second time around, it was even more so, because by then I knew everybody, and yeah, so it was just like, all right, enough of this, you know, kid business. I want to see, you know, bring on Salah, bring on, you know, whomever. So
Yeah, that's what it's all about, though. I mean, and the fact that people today, for example, got a chance to see that, they got a chance to see a Mo Salah goal and got a chance to see the captain score, and these kind of things are going to stay with those people as well. And hopefully, like I said, in a cynical way, make the club even bigger than it already is, which has the knock-on effect of giving us the financial clout to do the things that we need to do. And one of those things is to buy good footballers to come into the club. And we've already talked ad nauseum amongst ourselves about what Liverpool are doing in terms of the market and the move for Nunes, and we've got our youngster in as well, and it looks like that might be that. There's several people on their way out. We definitely wanted a midfielder. I still do. There's lots of talk about Bellingham. Klopp's batting it off quite sort of disingenuously, I thought. Look, I've no interest really in talking about things that might or might not happen or haven't happened yet. On this show, we usually talk about the transfers that have happened, and that might mean we mightn't be talking about another one for Liverpool. But in that vein, a lot of our rivals have strengthened, and there's a lot of good business getting done. And I'm thinking specifically of moves made by 2 teams who, you know, are going to be in the conversation, as Brendan used to say, when it comes to the league title, and certainly challenging in those very, very top positions. And that's Chelsea and City. And Karl, I wouldn't mind starting with you to get your reaction to the business done by Chelsea in signing Raheem Sterling, and it looks like almost over the line Nathan Ake, both of whom have come from Manchester City, an apparent rival. What do you make of those 2 transfers? And we know the first one is a done deal. We saw the puff pieces coming out of Chelsea yesterday, the kind of PR stuff as he settled into his new club.
Well, he's from there as well, isn't he? Well, he's not too far away from Chelsea anyway. So I think that I've always thought that might happen at some point. I think it's a good signing for him. I still really like Raheem. I've got no problem with him leaving us whatsoever. I probably would have done the same given how 2014-15 went. Well, obviously I wouldn't because it's my club, but you know what I mean. But I think I think that's a good move for him. I think it will make them slightly better. I was sort of hoping they keep Timo Werner for a bit longer, just because he's wonderfully inept. Nathan Ake, though, my God, that's a reach. That is a reach. Don't see it at all. I always thought he was average. Always. Bit surprised at that.
I'll go you one better, and I wouldn't mind getting both of your opinions on this. I don't like seeing our rivals strengthening, and I think the move for Sterling, I think you're right. I think the back to London thing, I think that might rejuvenate him, and he is clearly, patently an excellent footballer with plenty left in his legs. So immediately I don't like this because I can see it being good for them. Nathan Ake is neither here nor there in my opinion, but it looks very much like they're going to get Koulibaly done. And that
He
is,
must be 57 by now, though, surely.
he's 31.
Really?
And
He was 31 for longer than you were.
I know. Maybe he's got the same machine as I do, but to be honest, this gives me the fear. I don't like this because Koulibaly's somebody who, when we were linked with him last summer and the summer before, I was saying, yes, please. I love that because he's patently excellent. I don't like the way this is lining up. They definitely do look like they're going to be more solid. And this guy is really doing a lot of moving and shaking for Chelsea. And, just to bring you in on this, Lisa Marie, you see where I'm going with this. We love to think that, we can better our team, but you always have to remember that elsewhere, others are looking to do the same. City, well, they've certainly done it in terms of their recruitment so far this summer. That's kind of scary. But just to stick with the Chelsea story, you get in Sterling and Koulibaly. They are two potential first team ever presence who could be really, really, really good for them. And that's bad news for us. I don't like it. I don't like seeing rivals getting genuine quality players.
Yeah, absolutely. You do kind of, you do wonder and you, I think about that sometimes too when everyone's like, oh, we're all set. It was good. And I'm like, yeah, but we don't know what the others are going to do yet. But on the flip side of that, and here comes my blind optimism again, they've got to integrate them into those teams. And, it is a team sport and not necessarily one player or two players in this case are potentially going to make the difference. I mean, everyone thought, his name's slipping me, Lukaku was going to make a huge difference for Chelsea this past season gone.
Yeah.
And it, it fell flat. So, now I think Sterling is probably a better player overall. And will probably adapt a little bit better. So, yeah, it will be interesting to see, where they will go and how it will impact their overall setup as a team and how us and others are going to respond to that.
And in terms of City, I mean, they've signed Stefan Ortega and Julian Alvarez. They've also signed Calvin Phillips, who's a very, very solid addition. But they've signed the monster that is Erling Haaland as well. And when you think about that, does that give you pause? I've seen the most optimistic thing I've seen, I'll be honest, is, well, this to me speaks like a team that's in transition and maybe we can make that count for us. But a lot of people are kind of going out on a limb and saying, well, I mean, Haaland, yeah, he may not do as well as everyone thinks. I don't think that's going to be the case. That guy's a machine, and I think
he is. The only thing I can think with Haaland is, he's coming into a much harder league than what he's been playing in. Just bigger, more competition. As far as the teams that City's going to be up against, assuming a lot of the teams don't do like what they have often done, that has frustrated us all in the past is, they just kind of let City run them over. And I'm afraid this might even be the case even more so because it's like, oh, we can't go up against Haaland and, and they just kind of let them, run past them and score and don't put up a fight.
Exactly. The fear factor thing. That's
the
what
fear
worries.
Factor,
yeah. That's what worries me.
So I don't know. And I don't know enough about, the way Dortmund played versus the way City played to know, how much of a difference it's going to be for him, adapting to Pep's system and, and some of those other things. And I really like Calvin Phillips as a player, but I don't know that he's going to be a regular starter for City. I don't know. It may just depend on, again, how they set up or if there are any, injuries or whatever. So, that was a move I kind of hated to see. Is Phillips go over to City. But yeah, Haaland, I don't know. I will be honest, I haven't seen a whole lot of him play. It's just I've heard of him. It's almost like, the Yeti or something.
That's actually a really, really good analogy. I like that. Yeah.
Like this folk tale, or this So I'm kind of interested to actually see him play and see how that's all going to work. Because it also feels like we've just been talking about him for so long coming. Oh, he's going to come to City. He's going to come to City. And so now that it's actually happened, I'm hoping that I am really hoping that it's a letdown, that, that it falls flat. But, time will just tell, once the season gets going, how that works initially. And we're just going to have to see, to me, this just falls back on, all we can do is hope that our players, our new players, are able to adapt well to the Liverpool way of playing. And we just worry about ourselves and the opposition that's in front of us and just go.
I have to say I'm now going to lean heavily into not Yeti but Bigfoot analogies with Haaland, because Bigfoot is normally seen and there are bright lights and orbs in the sky, and sometimes you can hear him and he's just in the distance, and sometimes he comes along and he'll savage an entire camp, but then he'll go away again and he's pretty reclusive. So I'll take Haaland being an occasional destroyer and mostly absent, if that was the analogy we could go with. And Karl, just to bring you in on the City business as well, obviously United are trying to do things too, as are Spurs, but the showy signings are Chelsea and now City as well. And like I say, United trying to get this Luke de Jong thing done, although it's kind of embarrassing the way that's working out for them.
Yeah, United did sign Christian Eriksen earlier today. That was announced.
Yes, the Eriksen thing is on the line.
I'm very disappointed in.
Well, look, he's a good player.
I know, that's why I'm disappointed.
And yeah, and I was going to say, and he should know better, but
exactly. Very disappointed.
Yeah, very disappointed in Christian himself. But Karl, just to bounce that back off you, do you find yourself cocking an angsty eyebrow at the business done by City, or for that matter by Chelsea?
No, not at all, because they're not going to win Liverpool the league, so I'm not that interested in that at all. I think I like Raheem as a person, so I'm happy he's got, he's away from his City hell, as the tabloids are probably going to call it. I like Lukaku as well, so I'm a bit annoyed that I actually like two Chelsea strikers. I think he's a good man. I'm just looking down some of the transfers that have gone on at the moment. Mesut Ozil has done a free transfer from his Turkish club to another Turkish club. And the big news is that, as I mentioned 2 weeks ago, that Shea Ojo has left Liverpool after a mere 62 years at Anfield.
Shea Ojo broke into the team alongside Billy Little, I believe, and it's nice to see him.
He's a big fan of the standing cop, he said. He told reporters.
Now listen here, see, he said. I kind of feel along the same lines that other teams can do what other teams are going to do, and the way that we've been operating under Klopp is we've had to overcome ridiculous odds, and we're just going to have to do it again and again and again. And it's not like we're in a really disenfranchised, weak position. We have tremendous assets at our disposal, and I have to say I'm looking forward to this new season starting. And that's really the last question, football related, that I want to leave you with, which is, when you think of the season to come, is it one of our new arrivals that you're most anxious to see? Who is it that you're really looking forward to seeing? I mean, the obvious answers are you hope Mo can go and get another 57 goals. And of course, and we're all hoping that this little injury Ali's picked up is not going to be a thing that keeps him out at the start of the campaign, because nobody can be without the best keeper in the world. He's just such an asset that it's not enough is ever said about it, and can't ever be enough said about it. We all look forward to seeing Virgil doing Virgil things, and hopefully we'll see Thiago doing lots of Thiago things. But maybe of the newer arrivals and some of the breakthrough players, is there anyone you're looking forward to see? That's part one, particularly. And who do you envisage, if anyone, making the breakthrough to being a first team regular? Do you see that thing happening? Karl, I'll start with you on both of those. So, of the new boys and the fringe players, who is it you're most looking forward to seeing contributing on the pitch? And then do you see any of that crowd in the younger to new arrival to fringe group absolutely hitting the ground and sticking in the first team?
I think it's going to be I think this might be a big year for Harvey. I think that's more than likely that he's. Where would you classify Curtis Jones in all this? Is it young lad or young lad first team or first team? I think Curtis is going to get a lot of football this year, and I think Harvey will as well. I think they're the big two. Chamberlain's injured again, isn't he? So, which is a shame. But I think Harvey's. It's going to be Harvey's. I want to see a lot more of Carvalho. I don't know how many games he's going to get. Yeah, Naby Keita. I don't know what's going on with that, but I think it's going to be a much different team, because I think you can tell when a team is doing well when you don't realise it's completely different than what it was 2 years ago. And that's which I think is why he's been dropping in Curtis every now and then, and Harvey did loads before he got injured at Ellen Road. So yeah, I think probably those two.
I think Harvey, yeah, for sure would be for me someone I'm looking forward to seeing. I'm going to leave Lisa Marie to talk about her own offspring in a minute, but I do worry about Curtis. I'm a big fan of the kid, and I think when he is allowed to play his game, he's really tremendous. He's got great confidence, ball carrying, he's inventive, and I love seeing him freed up. I just think he looks like a kid who's playing with a lot of instructions in his head a lot of the time, because he probably is playing with a lot of instructions in his head and has a very specific role to play in terms of things other than his natural game. So I, like you, Karl, hope to see a bit of Curtis.
Do you think it might be better in a 4 rather than the 3? I've been thinking that for a while.
Yeah, I do. I do think that, because I think that would free him a little bit to do a few more of the things that seem to come naturally to him, which is if he is playing on that left-hand side, cutting in and having shots and stuff like that. I think I can see him doing really well there. But look, we'll see. Like, I think the really interesting thing is that you've alluded to it there. We could see another iteration of Liverpool this season. I don't just mean personnel-wise. I mean another evolution of the side and the shape and the style, which would be very exciting. And I do look forward to that. But for me, the one that I'm really looking forward to, obviously everyone wants to see Darwin Núñez do well, and that's going to be whenever that's going to be. And I don't. It feels almost like you could jinx it. There's a lot of pressure on that kid, and I hope it goes well for him. But I do really, really want to see Fabio Carvalho and see what he is or what he could be. And the idea of having a couple of really exciting kids in the team, breaking through and holding on to that first team shirt like Harvey Elliott was doing at one point. That's massively exciting. Until his injury, it looked like he was going to be, if not an ever present, very much a first team regular. And that's exciting. And Klopp alluded to it himself. So I'm kind of teeing you up here, Lisa Marie. I'm going to go ahead and go out on a limb and assume that Harvey's one of the guys you're hoping to see get a lot of minutes. Is there anybody else in that category for you?
So yes, absolutely. My fourth child, Harvey Elliott. And I was just so happy to see, I did one of the bits of the game today I did catch was that pass of his just, threaded right through to Henderson, and I'm like, I hope this is just the beginning of what, we have an opportunity to see from him, throughout the season. So, but other than Harvey, I am excited to see Núñez, and the reason being, he did catch my eye when we were playing against Benfica in the Champions League. I hear these names and I kind of half know where they are, but for whatever reason, I don't know if I just happened to hear a podcast just before we played, or maybe it was listening to Scouted, with Karl Matchett and Dave, where, maybe they were talking about watching out for him. I don't know, but I just remember watching and going, whoa, okay, this is the guy they've been talking about. Yeah, I'd like to see him on our side, not us trying to stop him. So, so I am excited to see how he's going to just sort of bed in and work with, the team members that are already there, because I think it could be exciting. But on the flip side, what you were saying, Trev, is I don't want it to be where we're expecting him to score, 4 goals in the first 5 games. I think he needs to have the opportunity to learn the system, learn how to link up with the other team members and just find his feet. And I think that'll, be the best for him. But I hope he comes in like Jota did, just where we're all kind of very pleasantly surprised. I was going to say pleasantly surprised, but that's not fair, because none of us really knew who Diogo Jota was when he was signed, and it was a pleasant surprise. So, but Nunes, definitely, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for us.
I don't want to talk about the current injury situation, because there's lack of clarity around it. There is a rumor that Jota may have aggravated a hamstring injury, which he already had. The Ali thing is shrouded in mystery as well. But we're just going to go out on a limb and hope that's okay. But I had not heard the rumors about Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain being injured yet again, Karl, that you had. Is that a factual thing, or what's that based on?
He went off apparently today.
Yeah, he went off today.
Oh my God, what is wrong? That kid just cannot catch a break. I mean, honestly, the most annoying thing there for me is that now that means that what was potentially a saleable asset is not even that. And I hate to be that cold about Ox, because he seems like a lovely fella, but he's drifted so far from the reckoning that,
Do you know what the problem is?
What's that?
And I'm prepared to, because Cam's not here, I'm going to throw in a Cam like grenade here. You know that thing he does where he that wingman thing that Robbo and Trent do? He was on one of those and they stopped off to get a coffee, and he got a caramel coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, he's just not looking after himself,
Caramel. Not a cake, mate. Come on. Bill Shankly, Tom Saunders, Roy Evans screaming at them. Caramel.
I mean, if you put milk in your coffee, Shanks is coming for you. You know what I mean?
If you put sugar in your coffee, it becomes cake.
It's a dessert. It is then a dessert. Yes. I'm going out for a dessert.
I turned it off. In fact, I deliberately didn't skip the ads while on YouTube while there was a break on, just because I thought, no, I need to calm down before I go back to, laughing at things I don't understand.
I do love.
All right, remind me not to order coffee around Karl.
Yeah.
You don't play for Liverpool though. That's the difference.
What?
Yeah.
Although no, I won't judge you a bit with your mocha chocker blocker.
No, I'm not that bad.
Cinnamon latte with watermelon and cucumber.
No. I just, I do put a little sugar cream in my coffee, but yeah, anyway.
Do you?
I do.
So,
well, I can't, Trev, I can't put the Baileys in all the time. That's frowned upon at work. So, hello.
Fair enough. And can I ask how many spoons of sugar go into a cup of coffee, or do you use mugs? What do you do? What's your?
Well, it kind of depends. It does, and honestly, it depends on whether or not I know it's good coffee. If it's good coffee, then yeah, it might be just a small spoonful and a splash of cream, but if it's if it's crap coffee, then yeah, that's what I need to be able to drink it.
Trev, she doesn't mean mellow birds. She doesn't mean mellow birds.
I do get that. I don't
even know what that is.
Yeah, exactly. No, and no one would here either. It's a very 1970s reference.
Oh, okay.
Myself and Karl do this all the time in the hope that one listener will go, oh yeah.
That's what I'm after here. It's like the comedian Richard Herring. His dream job is to tell a joke that literally one person in the Albert Hall will get. One person.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he may need to revisit his vocation there.
Yeah,
I do appreciate it. I do like that myself. But
what's you're going into one of the very. I imagine you've got billions of coffee shops over there as well. What's your go-to coffee?
Me?
I'm so glad Braintree not here, because we'd be all day talking about muesli and whatever.
Most people will know that I am a coffee fiend, yes, and
this worries me.
I've gotten I had this wonderful machine. It was a very simple machine by Krups, and it used Nespresso pods, and it was brilliant. And it crapped out on me recently, so I bought a replacement, which is just not quite as good. And then I got one in from America via Amazon. I turned it on. A smell of fucking burning plastic came from it.
Oh.
And it died. And I'd spent some money on it. So I'm quite furious about that at the moment. But to answer,
that was just mellow birds.
It wasn't mellow fucking birds, no.
Sorry, I'm really annoyed. I mean, I bet you've got one listener who works in mellow birds now. We're furious with us.
So that's a disappointment. But I a minimal amount of milk in my coffee, and my coffee would be an Americano that's 2 shots of espresso or 2 pods with some boiling water. That would be what it is. And at the moment, because I'm doing a 16-8 fast, I don't even drink milk in my coffee until after 1 o'clock in the day. So that's where I am. What about you, Karl?
Tea, mate. I've just looked at Mellow Birds was made by Kraft, so there we go. It is American, in fact. So there we go. So I am including everyone on this podcast in this. Now, do you know, I've got a weird relationship with coffee. I don't particularly like it, and yet I have to have at least one big one a day. And every single day I think, oh, including like those mug size where I can't finish it. And I like tea. I just like tea.
Can you just go along with me here for a second? Can you just picture John Inman? Yes. And can you picture John Inman going, woo? And can you repeat that line about how you don't particularly like it, but you've got to get one big one into you a day?
Sorry. We're not doing this. Speaking of John Inman, and I'm sorry, Lisa Marie, because you're totally lost on this bit. Do you know there's 2 phases to his career and Are You Being Served? Because there's a bit where he was bald, and then halfway through he put a wig on.
I don't remember John Inman.
Yeah, he's got a massive bald patch at the back of his head, yeah. Oh, okay. Where he says, and I do like this line because I've used it before on here, where the pillow rubs. I think that's my favourite line ever in Are You
Oh, yeah, it's the old friction baldness.
Yeah.
I like it. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. Pep must have several pillows.
Yeah.
That's all I would say.
He's got a pillow menu every night.
I have one question to finish up before we pull the plug on this week's episode, which is, and you're not allowed to use abseiling down the front of the cathedral, Karl. Have you ever done an activity which scared the crap out of you? And if so, what is it? I did tee this one up, so you did have time to think about it. But even if you're winging it, we'll go with it. So have you ever done an activity? Last week, the question was, what was your best holiday you were on? So have you ever done an activity that scared the crap out of you? And if so, what was it? Now, it doesn't need to be bungee jumping or hang gliding or anything like that. It could be, maybe giving a speech in front of X, Y, or Z or whatever the hell ever. So, Lisa Marie, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that you've done a minimal amount of prep for this. With that in mind, what's the thing you're going to pick out here?
Does motherhood count?
Come on, that's too vague.
All right, just kidding. I am not particularly fond of being in the water. I like to look at water, sit next to water, but I'm not particularly fond of being in the water. I'm not a strong swimmer.
Okay.
So several years ago, we were up visiting Mr. H's family that lives on the Connecticut shore, and Sean was going to go out on a jet ski, and they're like, do you want to go along? And I was kind of like, oh, and his uncle's like, oh, it never tips over. It's so safe. You've got a life jacket on. You'll be fine. So, okay. So we head out, and we'd stopped to look at something, and he cut it quick and tipped us both off into the Long Island Sound. And so, I mean, it was fine. We got back on and came back. So we get back, and Uncle Jim's like, so, how'd you think? I go, well, he tipped me off into the Sound. He's like, and he thought I was kidding. And I said, nope, he did. But haven't been afraid of doing it since then. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of the water, of being in the water. So that sort of kind of, but I mean, I did it and it was all fine, but it was just kind of, and it's still a joke. I mean, this was probably at least 15 years ago, and we still joke about it when we're up there. I'm like, oh yeah, it's really safe. You won't fall off.
Yeah. Yeah, do you know what? I can imagine many people listening to this sort of nodding along in agreement. I know at least two people personally for whom that would be an absolute nightmare. So I'm sure that's a very relatable one. Karl, what about you? Anything you can recall that you've done that was like deeply uncomfortable or frightening?
I'm all right with the public speaking thing. I mean, I've got something coming up where I have to interview one of my heroes, which is going to be a bit of a worry. We did. I mean, I'll put this in the plugs bit at the end, but we're doing the Sherlock live show tomorrow, and we did a tech run, which is run by John, who hosted with when you were on, Trev, and I was sort of hoping to do that just so I could get the giggly sort of my favourite writer bit out of my head, and I've got that coming up tomorrow, and I couldn't do it because I was in London, and but in terms of actual fear, the abseiling thing was thinking, what the hell am I doing here? I mean, this is potentially death. Not really, to be honest. I mean, I've done gigs. They're petrifying, playing the guitar in front of people and just assuming that everyone's going to start pointing and thinking, is that it? You think that's good, do you? And of course, I've released books to an audience who don't particularly like me. But I'm sort of all right at things like that. There's the stuff that people don't like, public speaking. It's part of my job anyway, so I don't mind that so much. But it could literally be anything which would involve me being in a room with strangers where I don't have anything to say.
Yeah,
that scares me. I'm quite autistic anyway, so that would really, really worry me a great deal.
Yeah, so that's like deep discomfort as opposed to a little bit of anxiety rather than fear, and I think that counts every bit as much.
But Karl, what do you think about Love Island?
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
Yeah. Similar to yourself, I can't think of too many categories. I've done the heights things and the water things and all that kind of stuff, and I actually quite enjoy talking to big groups of people, especially if it's about something I'm comfortable with, so I don't mind that. But I have to say, I think most of these things are because like a bit like Lisa Marie's story, you do it and then you get over it, and a bit like you were saying earlier on, you do it, and then if you had to do that thing again, okay, it'd be a bit uncomfortable, but you wouldn't have quite that level of fear.
Well, I know what's coming.
Yeah, you know what's coming.
I want to get to that bit there. This is over. All I've got to do is literally open my hands, close my hands. And that's all I've got to do.
Yeah. So I flash back to times where I was deeply uncomfortable socially, and my worst fear was like having to do simple things that people took for granted when they were teenagers. I had no interest. I was so shy as a teenager. It was unbelievable.
I've got one for you then.
We went to the Gaeltacht. I don't know if you know what the Gaeltacht is, but it's a Irish-speaking region of the country where you go and you practice your Irish. Right. Yeah. So I did that in the summer of my second last year in secondary school. So I was 16, turned 17 while I was there. That summer, when I should have been, sort of like, living at large with all these ridiculously exotic girls from all over the country. I was hiding in the bathrooms most of the time when the dancing was on. I had no interest. I was just absolutely terrified. And I tell people that and they're going, what the fuck happened to you? And I was going, I don't know. But I think with everything, you do it the first time, and I remember that. I will never forget it, and you just get over it. Like similarly, you've heard the story, Karl, before, my social anxiety story, where I was like this
Doritos?
The beautiful girl in the Doritos. We know that story, right? And since then, I'm never going to put myself in that situation without having something to say.
Where are there any Doritos left?
Can you remember? There were Doritos aplenty, and I was just saying words. You know what I mean? It was just the most. If
you'd like to construct a narrative out of what I've just said, then let's continue.
Yeah, it was just the most mortifying thing ever. But again, lesson learned, and now I don't really feel so freaked out about it. So I've got one for you then. See if we're on the same page here. Imagine you are at a conference of experts who everyone in the room knows more about the subject than you. Okay.
And someone says, "Oh, the light bulb's gone. Trev, can you replace the light bulb in front of these people, please?"
Oh,
that's my worst nightmare.
Okay. Okay.
There's going to be a fire. I'm going to fall off the ladder at least twice.
Would you get shaky hands there? I think I might get shaky hands there with everyone.
I couldn't do it. I'm really bad at keys. Honestly, I mean, if someone says to me, "Oh, Karl, there's the keys, just open the door," it's not going to work for me. It'll work for you. These things don't like me.
Oh, that used to happen to me when I was in high school. I was a tour guide at one of the historic sites here, and so you're in an old building, you got these old doors, and you had keys, for every room, and there was this going into the one. I mean, it was, you kind of had to hold it just right and turn it just right. And I mean, if I'm by myself, first try, I've got a group of a dozen people or so with me, and it would take me half a dozen tries to get into the stupid door. So yeah, I get that.
It's like hotel pass keys as well. If my room's on the 17th floor and it takes a good 3 or 4 minutes to get down to reception, that's not going to work. I'm going to get the red light. If I need the toilet, it couldn't be a redder light. Imagine doing that with a convention behind you, thinking this bloke's a bit of a dickhead, isn't he? Remember with the light bulb when somehow the light bulb went out of his arse. How did that happen?
It's really good. It's really good to know these things, because if we ever do all manage to get together and we're having some sort of soiree or get together and we all decide to head back to X, Y, or Z room for a few drinks, I know that I should probably lead the way when it comes to keys. Then obviously,
just take care of all the admin. If you want me to do a public speech about how it's great to be together, stand on me. That's Absolutely. On me. No problem at all. But if you want to get into the room, forget it, son. That's not going to
and on that note, we should start wrapping up. I'm sure maybe you've got something to sign off with, or not, if you've got something you want to plug or not, but we'll give you the option. I just want to say, from my perspective, after a quiet spell due to some fairly heavy stuff here, I am back with a bang with the great stories. I'll have 2 before the end of July, so do, if you're interested in that kind of thing, keep an eye out for those. But do either of the two of you have anything you want to plug? Lisa Marie, what about yourself? Any last words or thoughts or anything you want to mention, or will we move swiftly to Karl?
Nothing. Just enjoy your summer. Try to stay cool if you're someplace where it's very hot, which I think I like to look at the weather for you all just out of curiosity, and it's not going to be pretty over there for a couple of days coming up. So don't drink lots of water. And other than that, have a good week and hope to catch up with everyone next week.
Yeah, we'll make a point of doing it next week. Of course we will, and we'll speak to you then, Lisa Marie and Karl. Anything for yourself that you want to reference or plug or make allusions to?
Yeah, a couple of things. We're back with some green grass and a bull, which is now very much a regular thing. Matt Caslin's written a thing about the only time West Germany have played East Germany, about the history of that. It's really good. Our friend Stephen Scragg, who's been on this show, is writing about something at the moment which Trev knows, but we can't share it just yet, just because it's just too exciting.
It's tremendous.
It's just such a great thing. So hopefully that'll come soon as well. I don't know when this show's going to come out, but if it comes out on Saturday before 5 o'clock, on the 16th of July, then our live show for Sherlock at Adler to Amberley, where we're going to discuss the final problem and the empty house and the great hiatus, basically where Sherlock gets killed and then comes back again, with Leslie Klinger, who is written the absolute definitive guide to the stories, and with Bert Coules, who adapted the Radio 4 shows in the 90s. And I'm going to try not to fanboy too much, and that's not going to happen either. If you want a light bulb changing, this could be the worst night of my
life. Well, from a very, very genuine place, I wish you the very best with that occasion. I hope it is an absolute stormer. And there are links, aren't there, Karl, where people can watch some of this live online?
We're going to do it on YouTube as well. It's going to be on YouTube. If you basically just go to follow us on Twitter at Adler2, ADLERTO. Ignore the Twitter address I give at the end of the show, which has been wrong for 3 years. Cool. I was in charge of that. You see my point? But yeah, I mean, if you've got it's free, all you got to do is sign up to a sheet. We don't contact you back or anything like that. We just remind you when it's going to happen. And Trevor, if you got an hour spare, come and watch me present. Oh no, don't do that. It's even worse.
Jeez, I can't win here. I don't want to contribute to your anxiety, and yet I do want to see it. But anyway,
well the thing is, because it's going to be a live show, I won't know who the audience are.
Yeah, there you go.
Until the very end. If I see question from Trevor Downey, oh my God, how can you change your life?
Oh, you can count on it. So, well, like I said, on behalf of all of us, myself and Lisa Marie, and Cam, no doubt, and everyone listening, I hope that goes fantastically for you. And like Lisa Marie said, we'll be back with you next week. Hope you all have a good week in the interim. Hope there's nothing but good news for you and for Liverpool, and that we get to talk about it next time out. So until then, mind yourselves, and we'll talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed listening to this Anfield Index show. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel so future podcasts find their way to your device automatically. There's nothing quite like fan engagement, and we'd love to know what you think of anything discussed on this show. The best way to get in touch is over on our free Discord community, where both podcasters and listeners debate the hottest LFC topics 24/7. Sign up free now at AnfieldIndex.com/Discord. You won't regret it. You can also follow us on Twitter at Anfield Index and find us on Facebook by searching for Anfield Index. Oh, and before you go, we'd love it if you could leave us a 5-star review on your favourite podcast app. It only takes a couple of seconds, and it means the world to the people who create these free shows.